let me use this time and get straight into the questions I have. I have two question sets, right? One is around the community. Yes.
Septimus, you're recording, right?
Okay. So I think before we can talk about the role of the tokens, it would be very important for me to clarify the stakeholders in the three phases. You have three stages of your project, two preparatory phases, and then stage 3 is the live phase. So it's in all, you have 3 stages. The whole point is to reach the final stage, to have the live DAO, right? So let's use maybe the first part of this call to clarify the roles of the stakeholders and their roles, because I think that's very important, and then go into the types of tokens. And my biggest question mark is regarding the CSTK token. But the stakeholders are very important too. Let me maybe, the other Shermin is going to share her screen, okay? Yeah. All right, let me go into this thing. Oh, escape. All right. Share screen. Yeah, entire screen, that's fine. All right. So, can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right. So this is the part in this. So the whole point is to reach. Can you see the live tech DAO status, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So let's reverse engineer this. Like in the end, once this DAO is live, who are the stakeholders? On one hand, from what I understand, I call them fundees. How do you call them? The people who, the token holders. You call them probably token holders or the funders. Their role... Yeah.
We generally call them backers and builders.
Backers and builders. Okay. So you have the backers. They're the token holders who fund projects, right?
They fund the DAO. They don't actually. And then the DAO funds project.
They fund the DAO, and the DAO is voted, like the allocation is funds is a collaborative voting process. Fund the DAO. Okay, I will write it nicer later. So then you have you call them builders? No.
Yeah, the people with impact hours.
Okay, but the builders are not. This is where I start to. You have the backers, people who put money into this DAO with the purpose to then vote on eligible projects, right? Who applies for these eligible projects? It's not the builders.
Yeah, not the builders. So we generally call the builders the people who are doing the cultural build to build the infrastructure culture, but then the people who are actually applying for projects. I don't know, Tam, do we have a generally considered name for people who are applying for projects?
I mean, we've been calling them projects or proposals.
Okay, but there are people, so maybe let's not call people projects or proposals. They're fundees. They're people who will receive funds, right? You have very weird naming sometimes. So backers and builders make sense, but the people receiving funds, it's in the end, they have to submit a project, but they're fundees. They're people who will receive funds based on projects or proposals they submit, right?
Maybe recipients?
Recipients, okay. Okay. All right. These are the 3 stakeholder groups, right? But then we have another stakeholder group. And it's the common stack, the role of the common stack. This is what I'm trying to identify, because from what I understand, the common stack is currently there are two things that the common stack is doing. From what I understand at the moment, the common stack is funding some of the builders who are very active actually building this cultural, So I'm assuming this will be also the case afterwards, right? And the other reason why Common Stack is a stakeholder, because you're using the CSTK token, and I don't quite understand what the CSTK token is, because honestly, I haven't had time to look into the Common Stack. And that might also be one of the reasons why it's so hard to understand what you guys are doing. Because if I need to understand the Common Stack before I understand token engineering, then I have to tell two stories, right? But yeah, so my point being that the Common Stack is a driving stakeholder in this whole thing. What will be the role of the Common Stack once the Tech DAO goes live?
There's no there will be no role. I mean, we'll probably be all of the roles, but not, like we might have projects that receive funds, although we don't have any direct plans to apply for funding from the TEC.
But will you continue to fund builders?
No.
May I ask how many builders are you currently, or on average over these months, have you been funding, more or less? Like,
I would say, so it's hard to say, like, number of people changes, but I would say it's about 15 grand a month. 15 to 20 grand a month. Well, actually, I guess it's more than that. So there's the association, and the core team, and excluding the core team, although I'm working very heavily on the TEC, so is Tam and Livia. So if we include them, then it's more like 25 grand a month, let's say.
But how many people would that be? If I take like the active builders in your community, right? How many active builders do you have, and what percentage of those do you fund? Like, is there like a transparency on that? Like,
there's definitely transparency. Well, it's in Giveth. It's on Giveth who we fund and where the money goes. But let me see. As far as stewards go, we are funding. So there are 17 people in the stewards group. Although you're in the stewards group, so
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, sorry. No, you're not. You're not in the stewards group. Okay. Shermin and Angela are.
Okay.
But so let's see. We're not funding YGG. We are funding Nate. We are funding Eduardo. We're not funding Craig. We are funding Jeff. We are funding Juan. Well, for the first month ever, we funded Zeptimus, Livia, Jess, Ivy. Sem. I wouldn't say that we're funding Sem. So and then there's Marco. Marco is a freelance designer that I pay. The Common Stack doesn't pay them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
There's like these fuzzy things.
Exactly, but I this was what I was assuming. You're
of the full-time stewards, about 70 to 75% are currently funded by the Common Stack. And I should also say that at the very beginning of the Tech DAO, the Common Stack is going to support some of them until they can because at the day of the launch, they won't receive funding from the DAO,
Okay.
But their mandate will be to get funding from the DAO, and we're just supporting the launch.
Okay. All right. Okay. And then there is also a role, but let's discuss this in detail once we get into the role of the CSTK token. Obviously, you're a big stakeholder because one of your tokens of the Common Stack is being used for whatever reason I don't understand yet. So this is why. So you have the kind of individual stakeholder groups who are the recipients. We're doing this for the recipients, right? They're like the main group, the people who will build these open source projects.
Yes.
For these open source projects, and then we have the builders who kind of facilitate the whole environment, right? Yeah. They're kind of the facilitators, the DAO facilitators. They are the DAO, facilitators,
DAO
bureaucracy.
Operation. We usually say operation.
Yeah. in the end, it's DAO bureaucracy. I know we don't like to hear that, but we're not getting rid of bureaucracy. DAO operators are operators.
Operations, like
operations. Yeah, DAO operations. Okay. Okay. So, and in phase 1 and phase 2. Okay, then let's go back to phase 1. In order to be able to build the live tech DAO, we have now 2 building phases. We're going to finalize the design phase 1 soon, right? Here, the Commons Stack has had a crucial role in kind of setting up, and facilitating the whole community. Then we have the builders, who have the biggest role in building this cultural build that you're talking about, right? And the builders, from what I understand, they have different roles. Could be community contributors or have more kind of special roles like community stewards, subject matter experts, or gravitons. Is that right? Okay. And then we have the future recipients. I called them fundees. Let's replace them with recipients. They have a showcase role only at this point, right? Because they're trying to showcase the type of projects that should be funded once the tech DAO goes live, right? Okay. Then once we get into the Commons upgrade phase, only the hatchers will have the most important role in this phase, because they're the ones who can vote over, who will A, fund the DAO, and B, vote over the policy-making tools. Is that correct?
Yes.
So will all builders be hatchers? Do we need to have the builders, are they an extra group?
So the builders will be, Shermin, I don't think is going to get impact. Yeah, but she's still a builder. Yes, all builders, most build 99% will be hatchers.
To become hatchers, they could decide to not be a hatcher, right?
I mean, effectively in phase 2, there are only hatchers. If you really wanted to, as far as stakeholders, I mean, there are other emotional stakeholders, but people with governance power will only be hatchers.
Yes, but you will continue, and this is also what I don't understand, and we'll get back. So the hatchers, I understand, are the most important stakeholders. You will keep having the recipients. Maybe they won't be that important, right? You will probably be collecting more recipients as phase 2 to showcase future projects. To be a hatcher who will emotionally support or intellectually support this without, for whatever reason, wanting to maybe be an official hatcher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And as a hatcher, you have 2 roles. You have the role to put money into this and to vote over this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, actually, you only have these phases are a little, I want to clarify what the phases are, because there's phase 1, I would say, is pre-hatch. And then phase 2 looks like, phase 2 will start in a week, hopefully. And that will be the actual hatch. And there'll be 30 days where hatchers can put money in, but after that, they can't put money in.
That I understand.
And then there's this kind of phase 2A, phase 2B. Phase 2B, after they can no longer put money in, now they have governance. And now they'll be able to design the bonding curve and conviction voting commons economy. And vote on other things too. I mean, that now they're an autonomous DAO. But until there's kind of this middle period where people are putting money in, where there's not really a DAO. It's just there's not governance. There's nothing. They can just put money in, and then there's after that, then they can choose to take money out, or they can vote to continue to participate. They could vote to spend the money if they wanted, but that's not really the intention. It's really to upgrade into the new commons.
Okay, unfortunately, I don't know if it's my connection or your connection. You keep breaking away. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, although sometimes it does break up.
Okay, let me deactivate my video then. Maybe it's better. Okay, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, once the hatch starts, why do you call it the Commons upgrade and not the hatch? This is, it's really so hard to follow you because you already have new words and then you're not even consistent with them. Because phase 2 is the hatch, right? Or is it more than the hatch?
Phase 2 is the hatch and the build up to the Commons upgrade. The Commons upgrade is like an instance. It's a moment where there'll be a vote to do an upgrade to the Commons. So really phase 2 to me is like the TEC hatch DAO phase.
Okay, but so you have two parts. One is like funding the hatch DAO, and the second part is voting over the final governance rules, right? But when does the discussion happen? During those 30 days?
After the 30 days, then we have our stakeholders set, and we know who has tokens, and then we also, what's really important for the design of the bonding curve and the system is that we know how much money we have. And then once we know how much money we have and how many tokens exist, then it's much easier to design the bonding curve. So we'll have like a set amount of funds that we can approximate around, because people could rage quit. So like it's not a perfect, but at least we know a pretty close range for designing the bonding curve. And so we'll have, once we have that set, then we are cutting down our parameters, and we can accurately design the economy.
Okay, I understand. Griff, could you maybe deactivate your video? It could be breaking up on your side, just the video. Okay, thanks. All right, so I understand the stakeholders and the stages now. So, and let's get into the tokens, right? Because what I try to identify are the types of tokens that you have. And you have different types of tokens for the different phases. So the two important tokens in phase 1 are the impact hours tokens and the CSTK score. The impact hour tokens, I have no problem understanding the role of that. What I don't understand is whether you keep collecting impact hour tokens over the next stages, because if you do, then the stakeholder here. Am I still?
No, we don't. There's no impact hours after the hatch. There's praise, but then it becomes more like a source cred distribution than impact hours.
Okay, not impact hour, but you will. Okay, that I understand. But if that is the case, then here, you might have people who decide to be builders, but they don't want to. Maybe builders exposed who haven't been hatchers. So our hatchers can keep collecting impact hours. No, not impact hours, praise. But this praise, what happens with the praise collected during phase 2?
We're not actually sure yet. That'll be up to the DAO. What we're going to take all this data that we learned where we did this praise analysis and rebuild the praise system. And we're going to and we've already made progress on integrating source cred. So the praise system is going to have a complete facelift. We're still going to collect the praise, but there's no assurances to anyone about what the praise will be worth. What it will rely on is, how the DAO, if the DAO wants to fund, once the DAO launches, if the DAO wants to fund the praise. Then
cred, right? So source cred will be your reputation metric.
It'll be source cred and praise. Can you guys hear Sherman, or is she breaking up for you? Is it me or is it her? Because I can always move to a different table or something.
No, maybe it's me. Let me change my network.
I hear you both perfectly.
Okay.
Oh, really? Sherman
For me,
doesn't
Sherman
pause
broke up.
for you guys?
Yeah, for me,
Okay.
I have a small gap here and there when I hear Sherman.
Okay,
Speak.
I
But short
changed
gaps.
I changed my network. Can you hear me better without the gap now?
Well, so we hear you really well, but sometimes there'll just be like a pause where I know you're talking, but we're not hearing you.
Yeah, I have the same thing on the other side. So I changed my network. Hopefully that will be better now. Let me know. Okay. Okay, so, but in the end, the builders in phase 2, whether it's praise or source cred, there will be some kind of reputation system still going on. You're deciding over kind of which one exactly and what the parameters will be. But builders will be rewarded with some kind of reputation score that will convert into something later, right?
Yes. Like, in the end now, once we get into this phase, the DAO has to agree, right? There has to be they have to vote to allocate funding to it. So it's hard to say that they will for sure be rewarded. And it's also the stuff that we're doing where people who get paid lose impact hours and stuff like that. Like there's just no clarity on the dynamics around that.
Okay, but what I guess would be important is to, and I understand that these governance rules are all still in the making, and this makes the communication to the outside world so complicated because it's a work in progress. So I guess from my opinion, it will be important to reward the builders in some way or the other. Otherwise, they won't have an incentive in the future to keep contributing, right?
Yeah. For most of the builders, we're probably going to fund them until the common stack is funding. Some of them we're stopping after the hatch, but some of them we're going to some of them we're stopping. I don't think we're stopping anyone during the hatch because we need everyone, to continue to tell people that it's happening. But after the hatch is over, I believe that we're stopping several people, and then after the commons upgrade, once the DAO actually starts passing proposals, I don't know if you remember this, but occasionally there's a moratorium, who knows what could happen. So, we're very human centered, and we want to give people the support that they need to have security in their life. So we're going to be reasonable. We're going to be reasonable.
Okay, but and there will be kind of also. Okay, let's go into the tokens now. I understand now the stages and the roles of the kind of stakeholder roles, and.
One thing that's important to that I think will set up the tokens that is I think important to layer on top of the phases is the legal expectations or the legal situation of each stage, or the organizations that exist and don't exist. So in phase 1, there is no token. In phase 1, there is no token engineering commons. It doesn't exist. It is, and every action that is being done is under the legal shield of the trusted seed, the common stack's trusted seed, which is so that every dev who's working on the code base, every person who's talking to do the cultural build and building the community, all of these people are members of this legal Swiss association, and their actions are being protected against any kind of issues. There's a legal strategy that is protecting their actions by participating in this legal Swiss association.
Okay, and the name of this Swiss association is Trusted Seed. Is that correct?
Technically, the name of this association is the Common Stack Association, but That's like, you know how Bitfinex and Tether, they have like another company called iFinex. That's the name of the company, but like in practice, we call it the trusted seed.
Yeah. Okay. So the trusted seed is the association, the name of the association, the common name of the association. Okay. All right. Yeah. So this is why I was saying the common stack is a very important stakeholder, because you're in fact not only funding, but you're also giving legal security to all actions, right? In phase 1. In phase 2.
And what I would say is that it's kind of like, imagine you're building an application, like a mobile application, and you want to make sure that the application fits the needs of your users. So you find actual users, and then you work with them to understand their needs. And so the Common Stack's goal is to build cultural and technical components for microeconomies around causes, around public goods. And our first partner in doing this is the Token Engineering Commons. The Token Engineering Commons chose to not have a legal entity in advance of their forming of an organization, and chose to have no formal legal entity. And that choice was informed by the fact that there's like Nexus Mutual is the only legal entity we know of with a bonding curve, and it creates a really weird dynamic. And it was just like the option of using the legal protection offered by the trusted seed gave more flexibility for like evolving.
Yeah, I understand how I think I understand how it happened, or why kind of this. Okay, but this is exactly what I understood. Now, the hatchers, in order to also have legal protection for the hatchers, the reason that in phase 2, the trusted seed is also the important legal entity. Is that correct? What happens when the tech DAO goes live legally?
So legally, once the hatch is over, so it's a closed hatch, right? So we're the trusted seed is being utilized to kind of ensure that there aren't a bunch of scammers or pump and dump people, but only value aligned people who are more focused on actually, that are less focused on profits and more focused on creating good in the world, right? They can, of course, need profits too. The trusted seed, because of the initialization of the bonding curve, that's a really good opportunity to kind of make some money. So we have a structure of a closed hatch, and because of that closed hatch, there are potential legal issues that could arise. And what's cool is we don't have to do formal KYC. Like, we don't check anyone's IDs, and it's very minimal KYC with a value aligned dimension, and that way only good people who are can be trusted end up with the good deal of the initializing the bonding curve.
Okay, that I understand, but like will there be a separate legal entity once the tech DAO goes live? It will continue to be kind of a trusted seed is the legal entity.
So once the hatch is over, the DAO is autonomous, and in the end, like, the trusted seed is this weird thing where we are not the legal entity of the TEC during the hatch, or like at the time of the hatch. The TEC exists, and it is autonomous, and it's partnered with the Common Stack. The trusted seed, members of the trusted seed are protected, but the trusted seed is not launching the TEC. The TEC is not part of the trusted seed. Individual members that are part of the Swiss Association. The Swiss Association was specifically created to protect members from DAO operations, but not in a way where they actually lose liability. So
okay, but what about people who like once the tech DAO goes live, right? And people put buy common stack tech tokens along the put money into the backers who fund that DAO. What is the legal status of those backers putting money in the DAO? What is the legal status of that live tech DAO?
Individuals.
There is no.
They're at all times, they're all individuals, and they're individually liable with their houses and their goods. But anyone who is a member of the trusted seed, if something happens, you can kind of think of it as a mutual aid group. If something happens, everyone who's a member of this group will fight to protect that person. That person is always an individual who's liable with all of their assets, unless, of course, they have an LLC or something and they're doing their own individual protection. So, but the trusted seed is a group that can be used by other DAOs as well to kind of just as a mutual aid group that says, hey, if any one of us has a problem, we all have a problem and we will fight together in court to say normal DAO operations for good projects shouldn't have any legal issues, you know?
Okay.
So it's a very low bandwidth legal entity.
Okay, I understand. Okay, that would probably be a topic on its own, but I understand the most important things here. So I guess I'm going down. You are still seeing my screen share?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So let's look at the tokens. The impact hour tokens, that's quite clear to me. The purpose is to have a reputation token that rewards early contributors, the builders, in proportion to their community activity, right?
One thing that's worth mentioning on the impact hour tokens is that we do have some informal tokens to aid in governance, but actually the single source of truth is a spreadsheet. So impact hours are tracked on a spreadsheet.
And I describe that also in a different part of this write-up. I will describe in reference to kind of the spreadsheets and how impact hours are collected and how praise can be collected and converted into impact hours. So I think this process I understood quite well. I'm just trying to make sure that I didn't get anything wrong. So I think when we look at the tokens, and this is a reputation token, the question is when is it minted upon? And I call it proof of contribution in the sense of community contribution, and you measure it in impact hours. And these impact hours,
very
right?
accurate.
But so proof of community contribution in your case is measured in impact hours and based on a subjective process by a group by evaluating the amount of praise everyone received. And that I describe in a different part. And so just to make sure, the number of impact hours I collect determine kind of the number of TEC tokens that I collect. It determines in the end how much voting power I have during the hatch. Is that correct?
That plus how much we raise.
Yes. Also, yes. I think I described this somewhere else. So the supply, in the end, the supply of impact hours is not capped. It's kind of determined on every 2 weeks, and it depends on the decisions of the praise quantifiers, right?
Yep.
Okay, so there is no such thing as price stability, as the impact hour tokens have no monetary value, but they will be converted into TEC tokens. Now, these TEC tokens, upon a minimum raise, will have some monetary value, but the price will not be stable. But the price of TEC will depend on the outcome of the total fundraising during the hatch.
Yep. It's all very accurate.
Okay, so the token is not transferable at no point. The impact hours I collect that I cannot transfer to anyone else. They are in theory fungible, but non-transferable. And the expiry event is when impact hours will be converted into TEC H once the hatch is successfully funded. There's
a technical detail that, but yeah, I guess it's a little more complicated than that. But
yeah,
basically,
I think Tamara said that you will keep the score, so the score will not cease to exist, right? The amount of impact hours, but the impact hours themselves won't have any functionality anymore, right?
Yeah,
or not.
and they're frozen at the initialization of the hatch. Really, like 2 days, or a day before the hatch, they're frozen, and that's the last time an impact hour will be minted. And then effectively there will be no more impact hours. We will just we'll just be doing praise, and we'll figure out a new system.
Okay.
If the hatch does not raise over 800K, other things could happen. Who knows? Who knows?
Yes.
Who knows what will happen? But assuming the hatch is successful, then impact hours stops at the beginning of the hatch.
Okay. And the rights, it's a reputation token that will convert into a voting right upon the hatch. Yeah. All right.
Yep.
So it's kind of, my voting right is proportional to a certain degree to the reputation token, to the amount of my reputation, as a function of the total amount of money raised.
Yeah.
Okay. But that proportion is also being decided upon, or was decided upon, by the community, right?
Yep, we had a full crazy hatch system where we had big votes and stuff, yeah. Runoffs, and the whole economy has been designed by the community.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So now we get to the interesting, the CSTK score. Why do we need it? I fully understand. I understand the necessity for legal reasons to be so from what I understand, if I understand it correctly, actually the CSTK score is only necessary for legal protection. It's been introduced because I don't understand why to introduce the CSTK score.
So there's two dimensions. There's individual trust in the person and an individual cap. The CSTK score.
Why can you not use impact hour tokens for individual trust? You already have a metric
But the impact hours are only by people who are participating, and there might be people who want to fund but not necessarily participate actively, and so then they wouldn't have a way to develop their trust metrics.
Okay.
You can't really put more skin in the game to prove your trust.
Okay.
Only through activity, and not everyone has the time, right? But they are still trusted.
But why create the CSTK score? Why not have them buy?
I think we need to move a little bit higher level and outside of the TEC and what is the common stack goal, because the C-stack is a derivative of the common stack trusted seed.
Yes.
And the trusted seed is a group of people that are trusted by the common stack, and they can earn a C-stack score through praise. So everyone who's earning impact hours also is earning C-stack at the same time through praise, or they can also pay dues to the trusted seed. And the trusted seeds is this legal protection agency, but to offer legal protection, we also have to raise funds. So this is how we can offer legal protection. The way to pay lawyers if there is an issue is to collect funds in the trusted seed. Also, the trusted seed supports the operations and the goals of the common stack, which is to,
Yes.
create these microeconomies for multiple organizations. And the real goal of the Trusted Seed is not for the token engineering commons. I agree completely. I don't think the token engineering commons really needs the Trusted Seed. I don't think so.
Okay.
They could
so
survive without
my
it.
assumption was correct that let's reformulate this. If the token engineering commons had their own legal entity and association in Switzerland, they wouldn't need the CSTK score.
This
at
is
that
true.
point.
But I think it's also important that the community actually voted to. There was an option. Actually, Tamara proposed this option of having a CSTK score of a membership ratio of 50. So there's this dimension called a membership ratio, and the membership ratio was a parameter chosen by the community that says how many CSTK tokens are required for putting money into the hatch. So there is also, what's important to know is that there is a scholarship. Anyone who is accepted as a Trusted Seed can apply to a scholarship, and we have not denied a single scholarship, and we probably will never deny a scholarship. For the dues, the minimum dues is 450 DAI, but it's free if you apply for a scholarship. And I think we've accepted somewhere around over 100 scholarships. Almost half the people who have applied have gotten scholarships. And so effectively it's free. There's no cost to anyone to get 1,125 CSTK. So you get, every member minimum gets 1,125 CSTK tokens, which is, with a membership ratio of 10, which was chosen by the community, is enough to put $11,250 into the hatch without any extra funds going to the common stack. People who have participated and earned praise, they can take a scholarship, get 450, and they already have a bunch of CSTK sitting there because they've been participating. We mint about somewhere between 30 and 60 CSTK every month for praise. And then there's also, on top of the amount of CSTK that is minted for people who are paying dues, whether it's a scholarship or not. So there is about, I think it's like 1.2 million CSTK, and they're only held by legal members of the association. And you have to be a legal member of the Swiss Association to hold the CSTK. And every single member can put at least $11,000 into. Most of them can put in much more than that, but and that specific number was very clearly identified when we were voting on parameters, and there were options ranging from 4 to 50. And I think the options were 4, 8, 10, and 50 in the runoff, and we chose 10.
Okay. This is, I think, where you will get a lot of people lost, right? But because it's already hard for me to follow. For you, it makes total sense because you have all the numbers and the governance rules of the common stack. But for me, it's just a bunch of numbers that is hard to digest when you tell me this, right? But okay, on a high level, I understand that this was for legal reasons. We needed to, like the token engineering commons, included this complexity of the additional CSTK token. So that makes sense. Yeah.
But then there's also the trust reasons. So so there's the legal reasons of having a CSTK. But then if we just wanted it for the legal protection, we could have chose a membership ratio of 10 million. And then what would happen is everybody who's in the Trusted Seed, they can put in as much money as they want to the hatch, right? But that wasn't what the community voted to do. They voted to actually apply this trust score as a way to put an individual cap on every member. And so your membership to to join to join the hatch, you have to have CSTAK. If you have the minimum CSTAK, you can only put in $11,000 into the hatch. If you want to put in more, you have to pay more membership dues or earn praise. We will still be minting CSTAK during the hatch, and that CSTAK that is minted can still be used to put more money into the hatch. So it's like a moving target to some extent, but that's because the TEC is choosing to use our reputation system, and our reputation system is an independent thing of the TEC. So we're going to continue to mint CSTAK as we do on a monthly basis for praise. People can still increase CSTAK holdings by paying more membership dues.
Okay. As I said, you're getting me lost here. But the important thing is that in the context of the token engineering commons, the CSTK score is only important for the 3 voting cycles in phase 1, right? It will determine kind of the weight of your voting power. But upon kind of the expiry event is that these CSTK upon they will lose functionality at the close of the hatch once the TEC tokens are minted.
Yes, they lose all functionality.
Okay. But if you want to be active in the common stack, your score will be valid for activities in the common stack. Is that correct?
Yeah. 100%.
In the common stack community that will be building other DAOs for other purposes. Okay.
Yeah, and we have other little things that CSTAK, is used for. But,
okay. Just how would you describe in a nutshell what is kind of the purpose of the CSTK token or score in the common stack? What's the purpose of the token? To be a a voting token or a reputation token?
It's 100% reputation token that shows, and the common stack is a centralized organization, and the CSTAK score is used to curate the trusted seed.
In proportion to your CSTK score.
Yeah, and it's a reputation score, and also there is a max. So we can only verify each person as well as we can. We accept almost everyone, but let's say that someone comes in and they apply and they give us their GitHub, they give us their Twitter. Their Twitter doesn't have any activity on it, neither does their GitHub. We give them a low max trust score. We say, okay, you're only allowed to have 0.1% of the total supply of CSTAK tokens. So we put an individual cap on people that we don't totally trust, that we don't totally know. I mean, we reject people too. If we go to their Twitter and it's all about chasing airdrops and, it's all about how they can use flash loans to hack things. It's like, okay, we don't trust this person. We're not going to accept them. Then there's people who we have, but I really want to get this because this max trust score is a major part of the trusted seed, and it's like if it's you or Zargum or people who we know really well, we trust really well, we say you can have up to 10% of all CSTAK tokens in existence. And of course, you probably won't have 10%. Right now, Simon de la Rouvier and I have earned the most CSTAK, and we have about 9% each between us. And then, each one of us. And then, and we track that. I guess I shouldn't really say that, but it's true. So we try to be a little bit more discreet with the addresses and stuff. So we try not to connect it directly.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
So then.
All right.
So So yeah, so if you're not trusted, you can't get very many C-stacks.
Okay.
If you're trusted, you can get more.
Okay, I now understand, and that was the important thing to understand, because I didn't understand the economic reason. I understand the legal reason and the trust reasons to introduce the CSTK score now. Then you have another token that's relevant, but it's an external token, is wrapped XDAI, right? But this is not only important in phase 1; it's in fact important in all phases. At any point in time when you want to fund. Like initiate the TEC, the Hatch DAO, or in phase 2, kind of fund the Hatch DAO, and in phase 3, fund the TEC funding pool, right? You always have to pay with XDAI. So your payment token, your payment token, chosen payment token for now is wrapped XDAI.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
I wanted to say one more thing about the CSTAK score before we go further, is that the real long-term goal of the CSTAK score is that for organizations that are small microeconomies, let's say that a community wants to build a commons around cleaning a river. You know, they probably have all of the expertise around that river. We want to make sure they can design their own economy. But we would also like them to have the opportunity to interact with trusted blockchain people that are interested in their economy. And so the CSTAK score is a way for this small, like less technical community that wants to create a commons to actually engage with trusted members of the blockchain community. And if those we trust these members to not participate in that economy if they're just trying to profit. So the CSTAK score is really a puzzle piece, a Lego, for non-technical communities to find technical stakeholders that are value aligned with their mission. So when someone wants to start a commons, you know, the token engineering commons doesn't need the CSTAK score as much as our real target audience that we want, which are the non-technical community that can now engage with trusted blockchain aware people and bring them into their hatch and bring them into the initialization of their community.
Okay, I understand. But that's related to the common stack more than to token engineering commons.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, because, you know, it's already, like, my aim is to A, understand it for myself, but B, actually to also write this piece, now as a blog post, potentially also cover it in my upcoming book. And make this amazing kind of cultural build that you've been working on accessible to other people, so they understand what they can do with tokens, you know, and power of tokenization and how to create their own DAOs or you know, communities. But it's really hard, since it's to describe what the token engineering commons are trying to do and how they've emerged and all the complex governance rules is already complex enough. And then how do I also describe kind of the common stack without going too much into detail? Because then you lose people. And I guess one of the reasons that you guys have such a over-documented, because you've done a good job documenting, it's just like hyper documented and it's hard to read in a digestible way, right? So I'm trying to help you here. This is why I'm really also appreciate the time you're taking or have been taking over this last week.
I can't tell you how much we appreciate your support on this.
No, for sure, it's a community thing. Okay, so but to make sure the wrapped XDAI, the purpose is to be the payment token to put funds into the different types of DAOs, the preliminary Hatch DAO, and then the fully funded, or then the live DAO, right? And and kind of the ratio is this kind of mint and burn ratio that you have according to your augmented bonding curve. Yeah. So kind of the and here, this minted upon, here the ABC governance rules will be like whatever you or the community decides finally, this is what's relevant here. ABC governance.
Reserve ratio.
Reserve, yeah. I mean, I write governance rules because this is a highly governed market, right? Governance rules. This is the exact opposite of a free market, right? It's a market that is predetermined in the smart contracts. Okay. All right. But the idea is to have some kind of price stability with this governance or not.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay. It is a property right, but it's also a voting right. No. The wrapped XDAI is just a property right. The TEC token. It's transferable, it's fungible. Okay. All right. But wrapped XDAI is this payment token. All right. Phase 2, the TEC H token. So did I understand it correctly? The aim of phase 2. The community members who have TEC H tokens will be able to be with their TEC H tokens or members of this Hatch DAO, and in proportion to the amount of TEC H tokens they have either earned or bought with wrapped XDAI, they can vote on the governance parameters of the final TEC DAO, right?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, yes?
It's one of those things where this DAO is completely autonomous. So, now the TECH token holders, that they can decide to just donate all the money to Vitalik. There's only intentions. There's no real plan. I mean, there is a plan, but it's not guaranteed.
I mean, in the end, yes. That I understand. Okay, the purpose, but the general purpose of that token is to be this temporary governance rights to vote on the commons upgrade, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And they are minted during this creation process of the Hatch DAO in phase 1, either, as we said, by builders who acquired them collecting impact hours, not CSTK, right? CSTK is not relevant here. Right. Okay.
CSTK is not relevant.
Okay. So impact hours will be converted into TEC, and backers can acquire the Hatch TEC H tokens in a 1-to-1 ratio with XDAI. The supply is not capped, but there is a minimum kind of supply we need, right?
Yeah, you could say that there's a minimum supply of, I guess, it's 800K plus 25%. Whatever that is. I guess it's a million. There's a million. It's a million supply cap minimum. That's cool. I didn't.
The 25% is the 25% the additional minted for the impact hours, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so did I understand? No.
I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Well, yes, it is. That is right, but it's going to be 250 million. It's going to be 250. It's going to be like, it's really 800K divided by 0.75.
Yeah. So a percentage goes of the funds raised, right? Through XDAI, the 25% will be allocated to the impact hours, to the builders who put in impact hours. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not, we have these two different metrics. There's the cultural build tribute that we used for some time, and then there's the makes more sense, which is the total supply held by builders. And in the end, there will be the minimum supply is going to be 1,666,666. That's the minimum supply, and 25% of that will be held by builders.
Okay, that's XDAI or US dollars. Yeah.
That's TEC H tokens, and it's get rid of that first 6 and turn it into a 0. Yeah,
okay.
Like that. And then 266,666 would be held by the builders.
Of those total 166,000, or in addition?
Yep. Of those total.
And that's the 25%? No.
Yeah, that's the 25%. And then 800K tokens would be held by the backers. So this is in the scenario where 800K was put in. They each get 1 token. And then the way we mint the tokens and describe it to people is that at the end, 25% of the governance rights will be held by builders. So that means 25% of the tokens, which is actually like 33% of the tokens that were minted. Math.
No, I understand. So 25% will be additionally minted and allocated. Yeah.
25% of that. So yeah.
Yeah.
25% of the total after it's minted.
Okay.
It's complicated. I'll write it out in math.
Okay. But so the important thing is that they have price stability because they're pegged to DAI, right? Then it's property rights, because I can pull out my DAI at any point. There is a vesting period, but in theory I can pull out my investment token. So it's a investment token. It's a property right, and then it's also in proportion to my investment. It's also a voting right.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a really nice. Let me just send it to you on Discord really quick, so you can put it in
also. Yeah.
This is the proposal for the TEC Hatchdow economy that succeeded. The 83rd one. Well, I think it was like, I don't know. There were 83 submissions to this repo, so maybe there were like 60, we'll say, proposals.
Okay, I'm not sure I'm seeing this now here.
Okay. See my Santa icon in the upper left?
Yeah.
Santa in the upper left, lower, yeah. There's a Santa, me riding a unicorn with my hand out. If you click that, then you'll see, higher in the upper left.
Here, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Higher actually.
Higher?
Even higher.
I don't know.
Move the mouse even higher. And to the left a little bit more. There's like all these things with
here,
ones.
yeah. Okay.
Yes. And then click that.
Yeah. Okay.
And this describes more fully how it changes with the dynamics, that chart at the top.
Okay.
I think if I could just walk you through it really quick. This is how much is collected. This is the total supply held by builders. This is the value. The next column is the impact hour rate, which is the equivalent amount of money it would take to put into the DAO to mint this many tokens for the person. And then this is the backer's rage quit percent. So you can kind of say that the impact hour rate times the rage quit percent is how much money the person someone who has impact hours could actually pull out of the DAO. So and this is the description of the economy and some memes.
Okay. All right. That really helps. Thanks. I will have a look at it and definitely also link to it. Okay.
Cool. And there were other ones like this. There were 4 of these that were all basically turned into almost a voter's pamphlet, and where they were all showed in the same. And one of them had a 50 membership ratio. One of them had a 10. One of them had a 8 membership ratio. The other had a 4, and that's like how much C-Stack is valuable, And then we had major debates about So it was very, at least in the internal community, it was very like debated and documented and understood.
How many people would you say have been active on average or in total co-creating these governance rules over these last few months?
I think we had over 20 submissions and 60 something voters on this parameter.
Okay, only on this parameter?
So when we were parameterizing, we did it holistically. Yeah. So everyone had to submit the entire proposal.
Okay, I understand. Wow.
And there was a dashboard where people could like see the impact of their decisions.
Yeah, I also linked to that. This is forensic work to try and reconstruct the process. But I think from an ethnographic point of view, it would be great if somebody could. You've been doing, like, honestly, a very interesting job in co-creating these governance rules. So maybe at some point, and I know that there are some ethnographers here in the community, it would make sense to really document how the governance rules were decided upon and what the biggest kind of stumbling blocks were, because there's so much the community can learn from the process you've run through, and it was very fruitful, but I understand also quite painful, right? If you can share these learnings at some point with other people, that would be very valuable. So I could help you probably here, but I think there's this researcher, Kelsey, she's an ethnographer, maybe she would be interested at some point in, we should talk about this.
We have been so the commons. What's exciting about working with the TEC and the Commons Stack is that that's 100% our plan from the very beginning was to do case studies on this, and then with the case studies and the cultural handbook that we build for the TEC, turning that into a cultural handbook for launching commons economies. So it's 100% the plan. We have Atta, who's a research PhD, who's been working with us since, I want to say, December, doing interviews, one-on-one interviews with me and Livia every week, as well as group interviews with me, Livia, and Tam every week, documenting processes and taking notes. So we have all of his data. Now we're bringing in Nate and hopefully Katie to support in that. And if we could bring Kelsey or you at any level into that, oh my God, that would be so exciting. Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want invites to some of those calls, we can definitely.
Yeah, for sure. Invite me. I don't know if I can always be part of them, but if I have at least the invite, I can be try to be part of it as much as I can. And but yeah, let's finalize this. So these TEC tokens, are property right and a voting right. They're non-transferable. So at no point will one member TEC token holder be able to transfer them to someone else or delegate their votes, or can they?
No, they cannot delegate.
Okay. Okay. Within each other, they're fungible, but they're non-transferable. And the expiry event is upon they're burnt. The TEC tokens are kind of burnt after the Commons upgrade or during the Commons upgrade and converted into TEC tokens. So any TEC token holder will now be a TEC token holder.
I think that technically we leave the TEC in their wallet as like a badge of honor, but it governs a DAO with no money in it. Yeah.
So you're not burning. It's okay. Will cease to have.
Just a second. Septimus, can you check with Sem on that? Is Sem around you right now?
No, he just left like a couple of minutes ago.
Okay. I'm pretty sure we were debating this several months ago, and I can't remember if we ended up this little technicality, but
But that's a technicality in just to be more superficial, kind of they're burnt, at least, and in the sense that they have no functionality anymore, and their TEC tokens will be minted in proportion to the TEC H tokens you held before.
Yeah, most likely.
Or
I mean, the thing is,
one.
if we leave them there and someone wants to do a snapshot 2 years later that has some kind of relevancy, and they're like, we want all the TECH token holders' opinion on this. It could happen, but it's such an edge case and irrelevant, you know?
Okay. But one-to-one, they will be converted into TEC tokens, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
It definitely determines the initial supply of the TEC token.
Okay. So, and now, so the goal is to have the live TEC DAO. The relevant token there are the TEC tokens, but all the parameters. So the purpose is clear. It should be the governance token. The funding and governance token, right? Funding and governance token. To enable and decide over funding of individual projects.
Yep.
And it will also be a kind of governance token, on general governance questions regarding the TEC DAO to upgrade the rules of the TEC DAO. Okay. Yep. But it's always proportional to your token holdings.
Yes. Well, in conviction voting, it's token holdings times time staked in a proposal. So it's token seconds. In conviction voting, but,
proportional based on conviction votes. So it's not one-to-one proportional based on conviction voting scheme. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and then but for if we want to change parameters, or if we want to upgrade,
the parameters need to be defined. All these,
Then
but
it is
it's not.
One, and so the two governance systems. One is the classic DAO voting, but it has delegation. In the classic DAO voting, there is delegation. In conviction voting, there is not. So
what do you mean classic DAO? There will be classic DAO voting in TEC?
Yes, so there'll be two voting apps. There might be more later, but to start, there's two voting apps. One is regular yes/no voting, where it's like, hey, we want to change the exit tribute to be 6% instead of 5%, right?
Yeah.
Then that voting system is called disputable voting, and I can give you some documentation on that if you'd like.
Yeah, I have them. I describe that later. So So the disputable voting will be relevant for general governance rules, right? Hello?
So sorry.
No problem. The disputable voting will be relevant for the general voting, the voting app of the general governance questions, and other voting app will be based on conviction voting, and it will be relevant for the funding votes, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
But the funding is also going to be disputable by Celeste, right?
Yes. So disputable voting and disputable conviction voting, there's the Celeste where things can be challenged, and but in general, like funding and technically disputable voting is God mode. It can take money out of the conviction funding pool. It can take money out of the bonding curve. It can do crazy things. I like to say the disputable voting can turn our DAO into a duck if it wants to. But of course, that's not the intention.
But you're okay. But let's use other words, because you're using a technical words to describe a functionality. So you have two different voting purposes. One voting purpose is voting on the general governance rules, right? To upgrading the general, changing the general governance rules of the TEC DAO.
I mean, there's intentions and then there's what's possible. you know?
Yeah,
And so it's always
that's
hard.
always, yeah, I know. But that's always, right? This is why you have to make your system adaptable. This you have in any type of system. What we try to do and what we, like in a year, we will evaluate whether your intentions became, a reality and whether this needs to be adapted or can be adapted. So, but in theory, you have kind of one voting app on the kind of funding decisions, and one voting app for the general updating of the general governance rules, right? But the funding decisions use a different type of voting system, which is which one?
The conviction voting.
This is conviction. Disputable conviction.
Yeah, disputable conviction voting.
And for the general governance question, you use what type of voting system?
Disputable voting. And I'm sending you by DM, just for your own information, the most up-to-date version of the spec that we're using to design the information for like when people are going to vote and decide on disputable voting and disputable conviction voting. When they're voting on those parameters, this is like the spec that we're using, and I think that has the most up-to-date information of what we're calling everything and like how the systems work. Okay.
All right. And these TEC tokens will be minted upon certain parameters of the that will be still have to be determined, right, in phase 2. The augmented bonding curve parameters have not been finalized yet, right?
Exactly.
If there is, I will work on this document and share it with you, and then maybe you can add links to it whenever you use more specific links, right? Because I'm doing this write-up so people might be able to also participate in this process now. Okay.
I think it'd be really good also to get Nate involved just to support you on this. Because he helps us in all the details. He knows everything really well and is a fantastic writer editor. And I think he would be able to support you very well.
Okay, because this is in the end, because once kind of the hatched DAO goes live, we will have over the next few months this process where we want to have as many people as possible participate in the deciding on the governance parameters of this augmented bonding curve, right?
Yes, at least as many token holders as possible.
Holders as possible, yeah.
Anyone will be able to submit. You don't have to have tokens to submit parameters, but you have to have tokens to vote.
Yes. But you might even have latecomers who want to, even if they cannot decide, maybe they have expertise to participate in the discussion. So having the relevant links to the relevant kind of discussion boards would be great. So a link to the discussion channel where the supply is being discussed, etc. So all these parameters will be the supply will be determined by also by the parameters of the final augmented bonding curve. Price stability is a goal, but will depend also on the parameters of the ABC.
The price stability will depend on the parameters. I wouldn't say it's not going to be as volatile as most because of the bonding curve, but it does. We don't expect it to be stable. We don't want it to.
Yeah. Okay. Exactly. So will depend on the parameters of the bonding curve. How much stability it introduces. Relative stability, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. That will be one. I guess you would want some kind of price stability or less fluctuation is more desirable or not. Or haven't you decided
in many ways? I mean, in many ways, more fluctuation is actually good because the volatility will. The more people buying and selling, will actually generate fees for the conviction voting pool. So in many ways, we actually want volatility. And yeah, it's exactly what you have written here, which is like the parameters of the augmented bonding curve will determine price stability. If we have really high exit and entry tributes, the price will be way more stable. There will not be a lot of fluctuation, you know, be taking big fees from a few people. And if there's small of those, and then of course the reserve ratio is really low, then the price will be way more volatile than if the reserve ratio is really high. Yeah.
Okay, so the rights we already defined is property right and a voting right. It's no special access right. There are no management rights because you have the builders who have a different incentive mechanism to be doing the kind of management of this whole thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of an oversight of management because the management will be funded by the DAO. But micromanagement, no. Macro management.
And the TEC tokens are fully transferable. They're fully fungible. And the expiry event, no?
That is actually the transferability. Thank you. Yeah. The transferability is actually a parameter that will be chosen by the community.
Okay. So
I expect it will be, so we're doing this thing, there's too many parameters to choose, so we'll have an advanced drop-down area, and the stewards will choose the default, which will be likely yes. Yeah. As much I assume that it would be yes, and the stewards will choose that default. But it's in the configuration space that the community could change it. I find that unlikely, but it's an option.
Okay. Same for fungibility then, but yeah. Okay.
Fungibility is not in the configuration space. It will be a fungible token.
Okay. Yeah.
So yes. I don't think there's anything. Yeah, there's nothing. Every token will be fungible. There's no way around.
I was assuming the same. Okay. And expiry event, but at some point you can, depending on the parameters predefined, you can exit kind of the bonding curve. You can pull your money out.
Yep.
And this will burn the TEC tokens.
Yep. There's going to be
depend on the cell curve, right?
Yeah. There's technically only one curve, the buy curve. There's only one curve. We don't have a buy curve and a sell curve. We have a curve with exit and entry tributes. You could say that you could kind of formulate it out, but in the technical, you could say either way.
So this will depend on the parameters of the bonding curve. Yeah.
Yeah.
That define.
There is one difference is that hatchers have we're calling it a token thaw. So there's a token freeze and a token thaw. So this will be parameters that are decided by the community, but all the hatchers will have to, their tokens will be locked for a period of time, and then there'll be a release period. But the people who are buying into the bonding curve don't have that. They'll be able to exit and enter. Okay,
and now what is the economic incentive for a TEC token holder? Or what is the motivation for a TEC token holder to fund, to put money into this bonding curve? This is what I don't understand. Because from what I understand, it's kind of a complex system to give grants for projects.
Mm-hmm. And so
it's not a speculation. It's not, I don't have a return on investment for the money.
There is an opportunity for speculation. I would say it's an impact investment. And so the main motivation is the same. It's the same motivation as a donation. So like what motivates someone to donate to fund people on Gitcoin?
Yeah, but without return on investment, you're not expecting the projects that you're funding to give you to be a shareholder in their projects because they're open source. It's kind of a donation-based funding.
Well, it's more like tech VCs, right? Like if you're a venture capitalist in the tech space, You might invest in a project way to exit. Eventually they will go public and you will sell your get dividends. The company may you don't actually care about that because you believe that this organization with their stock may actually have the belief of greater society that this is an organization that you want to invest in. So
yeah, but VCs don't do that. Impact donation based or impact, and even impact investors expect a return on investment unless it's donation.
Well, it's impact investors often will all investors really will take into consideration whether or not they want this organization to make the change in the world that they're saying. Right?
Yes, I know, but an investor wants a return on investment, some kind of, right? With a different risk function. But somebody who gives a donation doesn't expect a return on investment, or not a monetary return on investment, return on society, yes, but not return on their own dollars. Right.
And so we expect the people who are putting into the bonding curve will want either one or the other or both. Some people will just speculate.
What will they get back? What will they get back?
What will they get back? Well, they'll get tokens that are of a higher value. It's the same as Bitcoin. What do you get back when you invest in Bitcoin?
So you're expecting that this economy will grow, but okay, so we're putting, what I don't understand here, like people are putting money into a collective funding pool, right? This money will be used, this XDAI will be used
There's two pools. There's two pools.
Yes.
So you can kind of think of this organization, like most charities are just one pool. They just have the DAO, like Moloch DAO, Metacartel, they just have the DAO. And you get shares, but those shares are just pro rata rights to take money back out of the DAO. And then the DAO just donates, right? Mm-hmm. But you can imagine this as, okay, there's now two pools. There's this first pool, which is the same charity pool, but now there's an economic arm to that pool. And these two pools are connected to each other. So there's the charity pool that's doing good work, advancing the token, the Ethereum Foundation that's giving grants, to projects, Moloch DAO, right? And then there's actually the economic agent, the economic pool, which is the bonding curve. And every time someone buys and sells in the bonding curve, you end up funding this. There is a direct link between these two pools. So there's an exit tribute and an entry tribute. When people put money in the bonding curve, it's effectively, you could say, a tax that is required to fund these things. So if you want to participate in the speculative side of the token engineering commons, you also have to fund the charity side of the token engineering.
With which proportion? The proportion is also subject to the proportion.
Everything is up to the DAO. Is up to the TEC hash.
So it's an investment token and a donation token. Impact. It's a
impact investment. And
I wouldn't honestly, because I've been in that scene. Don't call it impact investment. I think the token, like the people who this is just my perspective I would like to share. So the people who will fund the DAO with money, they will, part of their money will be has a speculative aspect, right? So they're expecting some kind of return on investment on their speculation, and one part of their funds will go into this donation pool to fund projects, open source projects, token engineering based open source projects, right? But it's a donation. Because it's not an investment. Investment means you receive like in classical economics, in capitalism, investment is defined on having a return on investment on your private property, and the private property is the private money you put in, right? Otherwise, it's considered a donation. In maybe if you look at it from a different point of view, like creating value for the world, creating a public good. Obviously there is a return on investment, but not on your private property. It's for the greater good.
But what's the return on investing in Bitcoin? Like, you're still investing in Bitcoin.
Yeah, but Bitcoin doesn't donate funds to somebody. The Bitcoin ecosystem.
I would disagree. I think Bitcoin donates to miners, and there's no expectation of a return.
No, that's a return on investment. Like, no, miners are putting in. They're investing into hardware, and they receive a return on investment. Bitcoin, the whole minted upon the whole crypto economics, is a return on investment game for miners. You have to be very careful with words you use, because these words have meanings So if you want to return on investment is a very clearly defined word, So miners have a return on investment in Bitcoin. Yeah. Proof of work determines this return on investment.
What is the experience of people who buy Bitcoin? Are they expecting a return? They're not expecting a return.
No, this is a speculative object, right? Okay, and we didn't know it would be an object of speculation. So I think this is where it can really help you in your narrative. So the purpose of your token, okay, so for people who want to put in their money, part of the money, let's say 25% goes into the donations. Or what is your kind of default parameters people can choose from?
Man, it's really hard. You don't know yet. It's so hard. I couldn't imagine anyone going as high as 20% for either of the tributes. That would be pretty crazy. I could totally imagine 0. Like 0 on the entry tribute and 10% on an exit tribute. Doesn't sound so crazy.
What do you mean entry? Okay.
So when people buy into the bonding curve, maybe they don't pay anything. I mean, I think they should, but it's like, it's not my choice, So like, maybe they pay 0% on entry tribute, and we just want to get people.
What do you mean entry tribute? You're using new words again. Use very, very simple to understand words.
Tribute is the word that Moloch DAO uses.
Okay, I don't care about that. Say it in a word that really everyone would understand.
How about, what do they call it? A Tobin tax. So there's the Tobin tax, which is the exit tribute, and then there's the
exit of what? When they buy.
When you burn. So the exit tribute is when you burn the tokens, and the entry tribute is when you buy the token. So if you buy the token, and the entry tribute is 5%, 5% goes to the DAO, it goes to the conviction voting pool. 95% is used to mint tokens.
Okay, tribute is what you refer to as the tax base, or you're like an impact tax, or the donation, what I call donation, the donation tribute.
Donation. Right? Yeah, we call it a donation.
Donation tribute. Mm-hmm. Okay, but this ratio still has to be determined. But in the end, when somebody puts money into that smart contract, into the DAO, they know that part of the money they put in, a certain percentage to be determined, will go into the funding pool for projects. The rest of it will be backing the bonding curve, which it's an own economic system built on general conception of the more people participate in the system, the more kind of the system token is worth. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So you're you're cross-funding, and why should people want to? But these are assumptions that you are making, and this is probably okay. I understand now. I think I understand the general economic design. I'm not sure if I agree with it, but I understand what you're trying to do with it. My last question, because we're going on 2 hours now. have you tested or will you be testing any of the assumptions you're making? Because my impression is that, and I really applaud that, this community approach to having a community, expert community or dedicated community members decide on all these governance rules. But do they have the knowledge to, this is all gut feeling based, let's do this or let's do that. Have you tested it? Are you planning to do scientific evaluation on the parameters you're defining? Because,
absolutely.
Okay.
Everything that we have Python models for everything, and so when we did agent-based simulation a little bit with the Common Simulator. It's not perfect for sure, but it's something. We've been researching it for 2 years and doing the best that we can, but at some point you just have to see what it looks like with humans using it, you know?
I fully agree, but are you planning to kind of document this and evaluate this on a regular basis with researchers?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is the strategy behind partnering with the TEC Commons, the TE Commons, right? Because they're the best people to do that. And so they'll have skin in the game to the token engineering community.
But who is the token engineering community?
So this would be the YGG and Octopus and Michael Zargum, Luke from One Hive, Trent McConaughey.
Okay, so a loose community of kind of experts who kind of want to contribute to this. All right.
Yeah.
But there is no roadmap yet to when to do these tests and when to evaluate this scientifically.
No, that's basically post Commons upgrade. Then that's the plan, is to help other people copy our model and then study all of the work.
So here's what I see. Thank you so much for taking the time. I think I have most of my questions answered. There will be always more detailed questions, but this is just because this is also so much in the making. But here's what I see as a last.
I also want to add, just on the TEC tokens, one more like incentive, or like, because it's a speculative token. It's also like a donation reward token in a way, like it's both. And I really thank you so much for clearing up the words around investment and speculation. I think it's very clear for me now, and I actually never knew that, so I really appreciate that. I was totally wrong. You're right. It's not.
No. I mean, let's say no. Any investment, or speculation is also investment, but your return on investment on more speculative assets is unclearer than, for example, investing into a brick and mortar company like a hotel. You can project a quite clear return on investment. And with the more speculative an asset is, and Bitcoin, unfortunately, it's not a payment token. It's not cash. It can't be used as cash because it doesn't have price stability. Ergo, it's a speculative object. You can invest into it, but it's highly speculative. So investment, it's still an investment token. So I think for you important, so we have an investment token where you don't know how speculative this token will be, that hasn't been determined yet because the ABC is a new concept also, right? And then you have the donation function, what you refer to as tribute, right?
And then there's a third function, which is the TEC's actual like engagement with society, which it will it hopes to be sort of like an engineering society for token engineering. So in this initial phase,
you mean a governance?
Well, as much governance as let's say the IEEE has. I don't know if have you heard of the IEEE?
Yeah, but this is exactly the feedback. Yes, I know IEEE. This is the feedback I want to give you. What I'm seeing here is that what your ultimate goal, a live tech DAO, with the purpose to, like, the primary purpose is not to create an investment token. The primary purpose is to, from what I understood, was to create a funding mechanism for token and open source token engineering projects, right?
Yes.
Okay. But you're not, these open source token engineering projects, you need a whole management team to organize this kind of this process of funding, of the community building process on one hand. And you need also people who keep working on the governance rules. So you have the builders, but the builders are not really incentivized properly. And this is where I see the biggest flaw. That this and this is also where I see the biggest flaw in your narrative. I think augmented bonding curve with the types of disputable conviction voting or disputable voting, this is great. But the missing link for me is the link between you have a link between the people who put money into the pool and the people who receive the pool, but the people who facilitate it, they've been not really accounted for. And you're trying to do that with the impact hour token or the whatever scores, or whether it's source cred, impact hours, whatever you're collecting. But it's kind of in German we say Stiefmütterchen. It's like the lost child, you know.
Well, the idea is that the conviction voting funding pool will also fund DAO operations. So it will fund the builders to continue doing the maintenance work. Just like when you donate to a charity, there's a percentage that goes to
How
overhead.
can a voting pool? But you're using weird words. A funding pool, not a voting pool.
Yeah, I mean, technically it's called a common pool, but we can call it the funds that the DAO uses to spend on token engineering. So like, it's more general than that, you know. The purpose of the DAO is the commons is to advance token engineering. So some of that funding will end up going into also
a percentage of those donations. The donation pool will be used for general operations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but
and
who is the manager? Who decides upon the management? You know, and why do you then? Okay, with the conviction voting.
So, like, if you ask for $10,000, it's going to take a lot more tokens to vote on it for a longer period of time than you ask for $1,000. So it'll take less, and that's. And this is what OneHive does, so we're really following after OneHive's model. This is not, I mean, the Common Stack, like, created the idea of conviction voting, but OneHive has implemented it and used it for about a year. And we've also done a lot of tests with it.
But conviction voting is just a mechanism out of which pool, which pool the general governance vote. No.
The mechanism, so there'll be the TEC DAO, right? The TE Commons, and then there'll be lots of small organizations that are paid by the Commons to do work. Almost like a government. A government doesn't really do anything. They pay they're just printing money and then paying other organizations to actually do stuff, right?
Yes.
And then they have all this bureaucracy to account for it. But
I understand the analogy. I fully understand, but I don't know where it. So you said you have kind of two.
So
pools.
like we have a structure of working groups. So there's the SoftGov working group. Sorry, I muted myself. There's a SoftGov working group, Gravity, Labs, Legal, Comms, and
so
these will each be sub-DAOs. These will each be small working groups that ask for funding independently and coordinate with each other through our processes, our cultural processes that we've created around the technical process.
Oh my God! So they have to like apply for money to do infrastructural work for the token engineering commons?
You you could imagine like, hey, we will, the comms team will manage the Twitter. We'll write seven blog posts a month. We'll give updates on the forums and blah, blah, blah. These will be the requirements. We'd like to request funding for the next 6 months to do that.
Okay, so this will become from the disputable conviction voting will be used. One of the 2 voting apps will be used for that.
Yes, disputable conviction voting.
So you're treating the builders who will maintain kind of the infrastructural services of your tech DAO. You will treat them equally like a third party. Okay, I'm not sure that's a good idea, but that's my personal opinion. And let's leave it here.
Yeah.
Let's leave it here because, I know you have busy days and I also got to get going. Thank you so much for taking the time. And I will put this into, I will contact you once the document is ready for feedback. And
I will say this is not just like an idea we're coming up with. This is how OneHive has used conviction voting relatively successfully. So it's, we're following.
Okay. Interesting. Then I need to study OneHive also.
Yeah, talk to Luke about it. I'm sure he'll give you lots of criticism.
Okay, I will do that for sure. Actually, OneHive is also on my list to study as a DAO. I think that will be interesting. Okay, thank you all for your time. I know there were more people in the call. Thanks for being here, and I will share the final doc as soon as possible for final feedback. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shermin.
This was very excellent. Thank you, Sherman. Thanks, Griff. What a great conversation.
Yep, thank you. Have a great day, all of you. Bye.